Hi, this is Alex Mitchell from Go Tech Yourself. I'm excited to bring you today the top 10 podcasts for product managers. So this is me. I am currently the Chief Product Officer of ICX Media. You can find more from me on Twitter. I write a lot about topics like this on Medium. You can also find my newsletter, which I publish twice a week. And I've also written a couple books in the product management space. So check those out on Amazon. And then also, please, if you enjoy this video, if you enjoy my other videos, please subscribe. You'll see a link down there at the bottom. Please subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with your coworkers. I want to help as many people as I can out there who want to become product managers or who want to level up as product managers. So let's jump right in. So I started writing this list about 3 years ago. I have a commute that's longer. I ride the metro every day. And I spend at least an hour every day listening to podcasts. So I thought I could share some of the best ones that I found out there in kind of the tech, startup, product space so that you don't have to search for those ones. You can just find the best right away. Also, during this coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic that we're under right now, I've kind of amped up the listening a bit and added a few more in as well. So this list is really for product managers. If you're a founder, you'll probably like these things too. If you just enjoy tech, if you work at a startup, you don't work at a startup, you want to work at a startup, probably is a great fit for you. Honestly, if you just want to hear great stories too, there are a lot of those in the podcast I'm about to cover. So, pretty much anyone these could be a great fit for, definitely folks in and around tech. So jumping right in with some honorable mentions before we get into the top 10 list. One of the ones that kind of came on my radar in the past year that I've really enjoyed, it kind of climbed right up near the top of my list, is Robinhood Snacks. So Snacks podcast had been around for a while, kind of covering market news. And then Robinhood brought them into the fold, I think, a little bit more than a year ago. It's super entertaining. It's a back and forth of two hosts, very fast paced. And every day they're picking kind of the 3 top stories you need to know, both in markets and startups and technology. So they kind of managed to pick the 2 things I'm most interested in, put them into a podcast and make it really compelling, really fast, really easy to listen to, about 15 minutes. And then in terms of a specific episode to check out, if you want to test it out, really, they make this joke every time, but the newest published podcast, they always call it T-Boy, the best one yet. So really just check out the newest one that they put out there, and that hopefully is the best one that they've ever made. So check out Robinhood Snacks. I think you'll enjoy it. Next one, an honorable mention, one more before we jump into the list, is the Product Podcast. So you're probably familiar, if you're in the world of product management, with Product School. They kind of brought the code school approach to product management, whether you want to level up, whether you want to learn a few more skills, or you actually want to start as a product manager. So in this podcast, you'll find really in-depth, high-quality interviews with people who are product managers today, people who are product leaders today, people who are founders who kind of followed the product track. And so it's a really great way to get that day-to-day understanding of what product management is. And I'd recommend one episode in particular where, it's called Going from Entry Level to VP of Product. So it's the Boxed VP. If you aren't familiar with Boxed, they do a lot of shipping of kind of drinks and snacks to offices. Kind of bulk shipping is their big thing. So it's really interesting episode because you kind of see how this person progressed from, just kind of breaking in to the field of product management to actually rising to the top. So check them out, kind of see how you can maybe make that transition in your own career too. So jumping into the list, number 10 here, Business Casual. So you may be familiar with the Morning Brew newsletter. I think it's up to over 2 million subscribers at this point. Similar to Robinhood Snacks, it's a mix of market news, a mix of tech news, really great newsletter. And now they've actually expanded, I think, into 4 or 5 different newsletters. So check out Morning Brew. Business Casual is their podcast. So they bring in a lot of really great guests that they also write about in their newsletter. And the way that they approach their podcast is kind of diving into a key vertical each week. So something like healthcare or something like, delivery startups. And they go really, really deep into the major trends, the major players. It's really kind of amazing how in-depth they get over the course of about an hour each podcast. One of my favorites recently was a deep dive into TikTok. So everyone probably listening to this knows how big TikTok has gotten, but TikTok is, a lot more than maybe what you see when you just scroll through the feed. So it's really interesting kind of how TikTok is, the epitome of how social media is changing, and how a lot of the traditional players are trying to emulate it, are trying to create their own platforms that are somewhat similar with varying levels of success. So check out that episode. I think you'll enjoy it. It'll also be super educational if you're at all interested in the social space or you work in the social space. This Week in Tech, number 9. Huge range on This Week in Tech. The name kind of gives it away, but really each week they're doing a multi-hour digest of all of the important news that happened in tech. So it's a really good way to kind of round up the week, listen to it on a Friday or even over the weekend, really understand all of the things that happened, the things you may have missed on Twitter or may have missed in the news. Just a really good digest of the week, and a great kind of compelling roundtable style talk with a few folks usually on. My recommendation is the My Robot Lawyer episode. I think you'll enjoy that one. Also a lot of jokes in this one. It's a pretty low key, leaned back type of podcast. So a pretty good one to kind of unwind the week with. Number 8, this is product management. If you've looked at different content out there on product managers and how to become a product manager, chances are you probably stumbled across This is Product Management. They're one of the leaders of creating content in the space. And the way I kind of talk about their podcast is it's very tactical. It's very detailed, even more so than product school. You're going to wind up with tons of ideas to test. You're really going to kind of come away with a million things that you can do to improve yourself, improve your teams, improve the ways you work. So check out This is Product Management for that. And definitely check out the embedding experimentation episode. So I'm a huge believer in finding the ways to try new things, even if you're doing something that you've done for months or quarters or even years. You should always be experimenting. You should always be trying new things. Some are going to fail, but you should always be trying new things. That's the only way you can get better. Number 7, Rocket. I like this one because it's pretty different. So it's kind of, if you mixed tech and culture together, that's what you're going to get with Rocket. So it also is one of the geekier podcasts that I listen to. So you'll definitely kind of cross over into comics, you'll cross over into superheroes, you'll cross over into a lot of different places that really bring tech and culture together. So I think you'll enjoy this one just because it's so different than the other ones. And check out the Disney Owns Our Culture episode. So this was even before the launch of Disney Plus. So you could say, Disney really owns our culture now. But I think you'll enjoy that one, and it'll just be kind of a good taste of what Rocket is like. So check that one out. Number 6, Product Hunt Radio. Of course, Product Hunt. You may not know that they have a podcast out there. And this podcast kind of looks into the future. So they're always kind of talking about, impacts of new product development on kind of trends that are happening now or may happen in the future, but it's in a really kind of accessible way. It's not overly technical. It's not, hard to comprehend. It's really accessible. I think you'll enjoy it. And I would recommend checking out one, How to Ship Work That Matters, with Basecamp's Ryan Singer. I think you'll enjoy this one. And just as a product manager or tech person, I think it'll be a good framing of thinking about how, measuring your outcomes, not your really outputs. So you want to make sure you're driving really things that matter. You're shipping things that matter. And how do you go about that from start to finish? So I think it'll reframe a few of the ways you've thought about what you do day to day. And I think you'll really enjoy that as a taste of the Product Hunt podcast. This Week in Startups at number 5. So Jason Calacanis, you may know him as an early investor in Uber, pretty prolific angel investor as well, pretty loud voice on Twitter. He does his This Week in the Startups, and he really manages to attract some of the highest quality startup founders. So anyone you see out there who's raising a ton of money, who's out there in, at all the conferences, on TechCrunch every day, they're on his podcast. And he just takes a no BS approach to his interviews. So you'll really enjoy this one where he brought in Superhuman CEO. And this is back when Superhuman, the email inbox, I would call it upgrader, or just kind of, making email more effective, which is what Superhuman does. He brought in that CEO when Superhuman was at kind of like peak hype. And so I think you'll enjoy that interview with the Superhuman CEO and just kind of how he dives into his business and what he sees in the future. Number 4, The Indicator. So this is an NPR podcast that I love. I've been following this one for years now. Just super easy to digest, 10-minute episodes focused on one indicator in the economy. So usually these are pretty interesting indicators, ones that you may not hear about in the news or may not think about normally. But it's a great way to kind of zoom out and think just a little bit beyond tech. How is the world changing? How is society changing? So listen to The Indicator to get that different perspective, and check out the Saudi Arabia's IPO fail episode to kind of see how Saudi Arabia tried to bring their biggest business, an oil refinery, Aramco, to IPO, and how they tried to bring it to the NYSE. They tried to bring it to a bunch of different underwriters, and then ultimately decided to bring it on their own market public. And just kind of the whole behind the scenes that went on there is just pretty interesting. So check that one out. Check out The Indicator. Number 3, Acquired. Acquired is what it sounds like. It's the behind the scenes of how companies actually get bought, how these negotiations happen, who's involved, who's pounding the board table, to kind of negotiate better deals, or what stress is happening. Everything that's kind of behind those headlines you see when it says, this company acquired this company. You're going to get intense detail. You're going to get information from the founders. You're going to get information from the venture capitalists. And you'll really enjoy the WeWork acquisition, in quotes, that kind of details everything that went on with WeWork and SoftBank as that started to collapse, as the company previously tried to go public, and that didn't quite work out. So you'll enjoy that episode, but I think you'll enjoy Acquired, and just getting to see a lot of the behind the scenes at these bigger tech companies that are really going through momentous moments in their history. Coming to the last 2 here. Number 2, The Top. So The Top is Nathan Ladka's podcast, where he brings on tons of SaaS startup founders, and then he milks those founders for sharing pretty much everything about their business. It's pretty incredible, but he'll get them to share revenue numbers. He'll get them to share growth numbers. He'll dive deep. He'll push back. He'll ask them to share retention numbers. And just his energy is completely infectious. You'll be on the edge of your seat. You'll be amazed at his capacity to interview all of these founders. You'll also be amazed at how many of these podcasts he's cranked out. I think he's over 1,500 at this point, and he's only been at it for a few years. In terms of a specific one that's really hot right now, check out the Zoom podcast number 1014 that he did, where he talked with the CEO kind of pre-IPO. So this was a while ago, but really, really interesting, and just kind of getting to the root of that business. And honestly, from this podcast, if you had listened, you would have recognized how big of an opportunity Zoom had, how fast it was growing, how great the margins were, and you probably would have bought some stock a little bit ago, even before this crazy remote work crisis that we're in right now. So check that one out. Subscribe to The Top. You'll definitely enjoy Nathan. You'll enjoy this podcast for sure. And then at the top of the list, Masters of Scale. So this is Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn and Greylock fame. He is one of the best storytellers out there. These episodes are incredibly well thought out. They have a great kind of beginning, middle, and end, great lessons you can take away, and insights that are just, pretty incredible, honestly. I look forward to these episodes, and they, when they pop up, I listen to them pretty much as quickly as you can. And I'd recommend checking out the Bill Gates one. Number one, this shows the quality of interviews that Reid gets, but also it just kind of shows a amazing perspective of someone who's, obviously one of the richest people in the world, but also has, devoted themselves to, also the biggest foundation in the world, and making massive impacts in what, Bill calls accelerating history. So check out Masters of Scale if you don't already. I'd be surprised if you don't already, because it's so great. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed those honorable mentions, the top 10 podcasts. Subscribe to them. You'll definitely learn a ton. You'll come up with a ton of ideas. You'll become better. And please do subscribe. Check out the rest of my videos, and check out a few of these other places that I create content. Thanks.